What's happening, guys, and welcome back to today's discussion video where we finally have official concrete confirmation that Hasbro and Takara Tomy are going to be continuing their movie masterpiece 2007 line, which is so exciting. I think I'm not alone in saying that we all kind of thought that movie masterpiece was maybe going to be kind of put on hiatus until maybe next year, because 9 times out of 10, if past years are anything to go by, we've usually seen a reveal by now, but for some strange reason they've left it to smack bang in the middle of July, and it's a pretty big character choice, which, don't you guys worry, we will get into towards the tail end of the video. But before we do that, we have a few other bits and bots to discuss. So Yolopark went ahead and pretty much unveiled their entire second wave for their AMK series. So previously we checked out Optimus Prime and Bumblebee. Absolutely incredible. Some of the best action figures that I think are at the moment showcased on this channel, especially in terms of their value for money. And if you guys want to add any of them to the collection, then definitely be sure to head down to the links in the description box below. But we're going to be starting things big. So they are finally going to be bringing us Terracon Scourge, and he looks insanely detailed. I think at the moment this is likely to be the most accurate version of Scourge based on Transformers Rise of the Beasts. Unfortunately, at the time of this recording, we don't have any kind of official full coloured images. These are mainly just prototypes, but they look incredibly impressive. If the final figure looks half as good as what we're seeing here from this prototype, I'm going to be so happy, especially again for kind of that $30 to $35 mark. It just looks insanely awesome. We even get the little insignias on the shoulders and on the forearm. Insanely cool looking figure, and the neck is way more accurate when in comparison to the SS version. And we also saw a few back shots, and for some strange reason they decided to give us a good old close-up of Scourge's butt, and yeah, he's definitely looking a little peachy. So yeah, really awesome looking figure. Cannot wait to get my hands on this guy. But they didn't stop at Scourge, because we also have another Maximal to go alongside Optimus Primal, and the second reveal was Cheetor. Now, I really like the way this guy looks, incredibly accurate to the very brief amount of screen time that this guy had in Rise of the Beasts. After watching the movie, I do in some ways wish that Yolopark had maybe based these beast characters on their beast modes, because they really aren't in robot mode all that much, and whenever they are in robot mode, unfortunately you don't really get a great glimpse of them. But this Cheetah looks very accurate. You know, if you were to compare it to the Studio Series version, to be quite honest with you, I think the SS version actually did an incredible job, because this looks near enough smack on, just a little cleaner because it doesn't transform. But yeah, pretty nicely detailed. Much like Scourge, these are grey prototypes, so unfortunately we don't have any colorized renders as of yet, but the back detail for Cheetah, especially with that spinal column, looks so awesome. Very much like what we saw from Optimus Primal, impeccable detail. And then finally, probably one of my favorites alongside Scourge, we have the official reveal for their Rhinox. The detail in terms of the robot mode looks astronomically awesome, very accurate again to what we saw from the Studio Series version. So in some ways we do have to take our hats off to Hasbro, you know, for the Studio Series line, giving us kind of the first pass of some of these live action movie characters. I think they did an insanely cool job. But this guy looks incredible as we spin him around to the back, because he doesn't transform. Again, super accurate, really nicely detailed piston action going on in that spinal column. It does just look so cool. And one thing I'm noticing about this Rhinox when in comparison to the previous two prototypes is he actually has articulated fingers. Now, if you've checked out my review for some of the characters that we saw in the first wave, they all had interchangeable pre-post hands. So if they are looking to go into the direction of giving us articulated fingers, then I'm going to be absolutely all for it, because I do think personally that's better than swap out hands. Not to say they're bad, but I do just personally prefer articulating the fingers on action figures. So yeah, he looks sick. He'll also include the mallet, and if I didn't already previously discuss it, Cheetor will include his spear weapons. And then just to kind of round things off for Yolopark, they did announce a beast mode version of Optimus Prime, but this is their much larger scale series, and I think this thing's going to retail for around $2,500, so astronomically different when in comparison to their $30 AMK series. I doubt I'm going to be picking this up, because I imagine it's going to be enormous, it's super expensive. Yeah, I'm probably just going to stick to 3.0. Hopefully 3.0 bring out an ape version of Optimus Primal based on the movie, but it does look fantastic. So, you know, if you're into these higher end products, then I think you're going to be incredibly happy with that. And that pretty much wraps it up in terms of Yolopark reveals. Now we've got to get stuck into some San Diego Comic-Con 2023 news. Now, this is scheduled to take place, I believe, exactly a week from the time that you guys will see this video go out, and they've already teased some incredibly exciting releases. So Hasbro Transformers will have a panel, and they're going to be revealing some upcoming Studio Series Rise of the Beast figures, which at the moment we haven't as of yet seen. Now, very recently we did see the reveal for Optimus Primal and Mirage, and I believe the next Rise of the Beast character that is supposed to accompany Mirage in that wave is Nightbird. I also heard a few rumours that maybe we'll see Wheeljack, but I definitely wouldn't hold out any hope, and I believe the Voyager class figure for that wave is the Studio Series 86 Ratchet, which is fantastic because the Earthrise version was even harder to track down than the Earthrise Ironhide, so it will be really cool to finally get an affordable version of Ratchet, and undeniably the best transforming G1 Ratchet that we've ever seen. That isn't a masterpiece because that SS86 Ironhide is banging, and they also teased the very first Studio Series Commander class. Now this is super exciting for quite a few reasons. I mean, first of all, Commander class coming to Studio Series just opens up an entire Pandora's box of characters which, you know, maybe would have been too big to create for leader. Kind of sucks that we already have that Age of Extinction Grimlock as a leader, because I do think Commander class would have been the perfect scale for him, and then they could have made the likes of Strafe, Scorn and Slug all leader class figures to best scale with him as seen in the movie. Maybe they'll do a new Grimlock in the future, but considering they've just reissued him in Buzzworthy Bumblebee, I doubt it. But anyway, back to this Commander class. The rumour has it that this character is going to be Studio Series 86 and that it's going to be Ultra Magnus. So an incredibly safe bet. You know, 9 times out of 10 these G1 characters always sell incredibly well, and I think Ultra Magnus is a fantastic first pick, because if you look back at the original Commander class figure that we saw as part of the War for Cybertron line, it was G1, it was Jetfire, an incredibly popular G1 character, and I'm going to be honest with you guys, I enjoyed that figure so much that I didn't even bother picking up the Masterpiece version of itself, because I just thought in terms of the differences between the price point, the Masterpiece just wasn't worth it. The Commander Jetfire is almost a 10 out of 10 release, so I am so excited to see as to what they're going to bring to us in terms of this Ultra Magnus, and I'm so glad that it is an Ultra Magnus, because I haven't really been too keen on the past ones that we've seen for War for Cybertron Kingdom or War for Cybertron Siege, especially that Kingdom version. If you've checked out my review, you guys will know that I thought it was so lazy. Ultra Magnus is such a fan favourite character. I definitely think that he should have deserved a brand new mould, and he's finally going to get it in Commander. My only hopes is that they try their best to scrap that whole kind of Albino Prime thing. I've never really been a huge fan of it. Because it's Commander class, I am thinking that maybe they are going to still keep that to kind of justify the price point, but I'm hoping the trailer is actually able to tow and carry some Autobots, because that was also something which you could not do with some of the previous War for Cybertron figures. So yeah, super excited to see as to how that's going to turn out. And then the final thing we can expect to see alongside some Studio Series reveals will be some Generation exclusive reveals. So note that it says Generation exclusive. I doubt that these are going to be anything to do in terms of Legacy mainline, because I believe after the next wave of Legacy, that's Chapter 2 done. So I imagine the next time that we'll see anything to do with Year 3 of Legacy won't be until, I believe it's PulseCon, which usually takes place around the end of September, early October. So I imagine they're just going to be tying up a few loose ends, probably a few figures that we may have seen scouring around already, such as Toe Line. There's also medics that they've yet to reveal. So yeah, that should be pretty cool. And that pretty much wraps it up for San Diego Comic-Con news. Very excited to check that panel out. So let's now get stuck into some big news. The actual drop of our next movie masterpiece figure, and as we all suspected, it is still a 2007 character, a Decepticon to be more precise, and it is BONECRUSHER. Now this is a character which, had you told me was going to be seeing a release way back in 2017, I would have thought you were crazy, because BONECRUSHER, at least to me in the movie, always appeared to be way bigger when in comparison to Optimus Prime. At one point when he's about to tackle Prime, it literally looks like he dwarfs him, so I never in a million years thought Hasbro would be brave enough to bring this guy into the movie masterpiece line, but they've done it, and I guess this pretty much confirms that they will be concluding the entire main 2007 cast, because after we get BONECRUSHER, there's only Brawl left to go, and I'm praying that they include a tiny little MPM Frenzy to go along with him. It's kind of crazy that they never packaged it in with Barricade way back in 2018, but anyway, back here to BONECRUSHER. This guy looks insanely awesome, and hands down, the best looking transforming version of BONECRUSHER that we've ever seen. For the longest time, I've had in my collection as kind of a masterpiece stand-in that TF Dream Factory version, which is still an incredibly cool piece, but comparing that directly to some of these product shots, no. This one here definitely is going to take the win. I mean, in terms of the proportions, just way more accurate when in comparison to the film. It quite literally looks from some angles like the CGI render, and to think this thing transforms is nuts. I cannot wait to see the conversion that's packed into this guy, and one of my personal favourite parts about him would be that whole kind of claw arm attachment that he had over the shoulder. It looks so badass. it looks as if though it's going to be able to combine in robot mode and also split much like we saw in the film, so that's really cool. I love the amount of detail that we've got packed into kind of the spikes. It does look like it's going to be fully articulated, which again is something I never expected to see from a Hasbro / Takara Tomy Bonecrusher, because even with that TF Dream Factory version, if you wanted the kind of splayed out claws, you had to swap them out. They were kind of swap out components, so yeah, amazing to see them replicate it so nicely and accurately. And in terms of the head sculpt, it looks incredible. I mean, the multi-layered kind of beige panel surrounding the gunmetal piece, smack onto what we saw in the film. I also like how that arm attachment appears to have 2 pistons, which will actually plug into the rims of the wheels. Again, for Takara Tomy and Hasbro, I just did not think they were going to be able to pull this off, and I like how kind of the windscreen and the side windows do wrap around the shoulders, much like we saw in the film. So this guy's definitely going to have a very high parts count. He even has the tyres packed into the hips. We get some tyres on the side of the legs and those classic 2007 Bonecrusher roller skates, which do look pretty cool. And much like kind of the whole armature thing, it does look like he has these almost tendril-like things plugging into the front of the toe. So yeah, just overall in terms of bot mode, it looks cool. We get those very slender, alien-like looking arms, which for the most part I think look pretty decent. The only area which I'd say may look slightly inaccurate would be the biceps, but that's just a minor qualm. And to be fair, if I wasn't directly comparing this to the CGI render right now, I probably really wouldn't have noticed anything wrong with it. The hands look pretty cool. From what I can tell, it's just the thumbs which are going to be articulated. The main 2 kind of, I guess, index fingers, you know, the Bayformer designs were always so strange, appear to be fixed into place, which does kind of suck. That's the only area where I think maybe the third-party version slightly wins over, but in the grand scheme of things, undeniably, MPM is for the win. And in terms of accessories, you'd think he'd include none, considering that we never officially on screen saw Bonecrusher with a weapon. I believe in the video game, maybe he had a pistol, but anyway, in terms of this masterpiece, he does come with quite a few. So first of all is an interchangeable battle damaged face piece. Now, as you guys all know, I believe Bayformers Prime's first kill in the live action films was Bonecrusher. You know, when he smashes his hand into his face, his eye quite literally ejects out of the socket, and that is the interchangeable face piece. You can kind of see the eye hanging by a few kind of circuitry components plugging into the socket. That is such a nice attention to detail. Again, something which I never in a million years thought they'd include, but that's not even it, because the first time we were introduced to Bonecrusher, he roller skates through the highway, smashes through a bus, and is quite literally on fire as he charges towards Optimus Prime. And Hasbro did not miss that attention to detail, because this guy will come with, I believe, a total of 5 flame effects, which you can kind of scatter throughout the body. That is a great touch. Really awesome to see them include some accessories with this guy instead of just making him accessory-less. So yeah, in terms of robot mode, I think this guy looks incredible. If I were to be critical, not the biggest fan of kind of the hollow voids that we can see on the side of the roller skates. Considering this is a masterpiece, I would have hoped that everything would have been concealed, but you know what, these are only kind of pre-sale images. Who knows, maybe the final version has that kind of corrected. But robot mode looks banging, and in terms of the vehicle mode, it's quite literally flawless. It looks so awesome. This is why I'm super excited to see the transformation for this guy, because the bot mode does just look so accurate, and there doesn't seem to be any compromises at all in terms of the vehicle mode. This could potentially be one of the most complex movie masterpiece figures that we've so far seen. There may be a slight bit of junk on the side, but to be fair, nothing that really sticks out to me. I love the attention to detail of kind of the window wipers wiping away some of the sand. You can see that packed into the front. That looks really cool. And to kind of go back to my previous point, that whole kind of arm attachment is articulated much like we saw in the movie. So not only can you have the claws splayed out in robot mode, but you'll also be able to kind of compress them, flatten them out for the vehicle mode, and then fully extend them like we saw in the film where Bonecrusher is kind of flipping cars and vehicles over the top of himself. So yeah, this looks to be a solid entry. Makes me so excited to see as to what they're going to do in terms of Brawl, because I'm going to be honest guys, I do think Brawl along with Barricade may just be my favourite Decepticon design from that 2007 film. In terms of a retail price, this guy's going to go for around about £165, which I believe is in a very similar ballpark to what we saw from Blackout last year. It may or may not be around £10 to £15 more expensive. I imagine that could potentially be to do with him being a larger character, but I believe that pretty much wraps it up for all of the bits and bots that I've discussed here today. For everything that I've shown, what are you guys most excited for? Are you excited for some of those Wave 2 Yolopark reveals? Are you excited for what we could potentially see as part of San Diego Comic-Con? And what do you guys think of the most recent movie masterpiece, Bonecrusher? Let me know your thoughts down below, and until my next video, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.